Welcome to Mom of Eight Momversations. I'm Reagan Barnes. I co founded Mom of Eight a few years ago with my friend Leah Westover, and we are just doing the best we can to spread the message of motherhood, that it is worth our while, even though it can be very challenging. We just recognize that our kids need us as moms, and that might mean as moms that we have to make some sacrifices um, and we have to be comfortable with that somehow. But we also here at Mom of Eight, we feel like there might be ways to modernize motherhood so that the best of both worlds can come to be, and that the talents of moms aren't told to stay at home, even if we choose to be the main care providers for our children. And so we're just in midst this experimental, revolutionary mindset, and seeing what we can do to bring the talents of moms out from staying at home, so to speak, and while still meeting the needs of our children. And our guest today is Amanda. Amanda, I think, is in the midst of all of this. She's a young mom. Her oldest is 5 years old, and she has 3 kids. So I think Amanda's been blessed with a good sense of what moms can do, and wanting to be able to fulfill every aspect of what motherhood means. In fact, when we were planning ahead for what this podcast would be about, we were talking through the Raise Up acronym, which has each letter of the words raise up, because that's what moms do, right? Moms raise up society. And each letter has like specific meaning. And Amanda picked 3 of those letters to talk about. It's hard to narrow down because everything seems so important. So we're going to see how much we can cover today about these 3 letters: the atmosphere concept, the idea that as moms, we create home. That's one reason we're called homemakers, right? Um, and then she also wanted to touch on the E for energy, which has to do with our physical and mental health habits, like eating or energy. Like energy can include what we eat or how we exercise or what our sleep habits are, and all of those contribute to our health, and both on a physical, but also even it's impacting our mental health to try to get those things figured out, which is actually just a lifelong commitment. And then finally, she also wanted to touch on the P for personal pursuits. And that just has to, it comes last in the Raise Up acronym, because that unfortunately is part of motherhood, right? Is sometimes we put our things last, but the point is not to forget about those things, because our personal goals and our talents and our skills are wonderful ways that we can have impact, not just on the world at large, but also on our children. And it's our children as individuals who become the world at large. And what a cool thing for them to get to see their mom pursuing those personal goals and talents and skills. So we encourage moms not to lose themselves entirely, but to bring those talents with them, and let them have impact both in our homes and beyond. So thank you, Amanda, for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of turn the time over to you if there's a certain angle you want to take as far as covering these aspects of the Raise Up acronym.
Well, I think it's interesting because all of those aspects of the Raise Up acronym, we've separated them out, and I think they all coincide together in so many ways too. They overlap.
That's true. In
Because,
fact, our little logo is a gear, and gears just do that, right? The gears
yeah,
have to work together. And So I'm sorry, I feel like
Yeah,
I interrupted.
no, you're good. But I feel like if my kids are watching me with my habits and taking care of myself, and then also watching me pursue goals, that sets up the atmosphere of my home to work hard and put effort in. And so I feel like all three of those are so interconnected for me, and that's why I chose all three of those.
Yeah.
Um, and atmosphere is probably actually the one I struggle with the most.
Yeah. I totally
Um,
understand. We just for a brief review of atmosphere, it's the idea of our five senses in our home and just being conscientious of what are our families seeing in our home? What are they hearing? What are they touching? What are they, like there's the overall ambiance also, right? Because I read somewhere there's actually like 26 senses or something. We just narrow it down to those five. But yeah, just having this conscientious effort to create home based on our awareness of what our kids and ourselves and our spouses, right? And
yeah.
visitors might be experiencing.
Yeah, and especially with that atmosphere, I have a sister-in-law who I feel has like nailed down atmosphere. Like that
Yeah.
is one of her strong suits.
Oh, cool.
They just moved up to Idaho on an 8-acre property.
Wow.
And they've got a pasture that they plan to have like a cow on. They've got a stream running through it. And their kids pretty much just live outside,
Oh,
exploring, and just they're
how fun.
inside to eat
Yeah.
and, take care of other basic needs and things like that. But other than that, they're outside, they're exploring. She's homeschooling right now, so they're also doing that, and she can use they plan on building a greenhouse on this property, and so they're going to use that for homeschool. And so I feel like, and I mean, before they moved, they lived in South Jordan in Utah.
Okay.
I just, anytime I'd go over there, it just was an overwhelming sense of just like calmness for the most part. And I mean,
Oh,
she's got 6 kids. Her
wow.
oldest is 11, and her youngest is, I think he turns, no, he just turned 2.
Okay.
And so, like, it's just absolutely crazy. Her house is full. She's got one girl, and that's her oldest, not all the rest are boys. So it's just a
Wow.
full house. And even though there's all that chaos going on, there's this underlying atmosphere of just calmness and like peace in
Oh,
her home. And I
yeah.
love it. And so I work hard to try and emulate that a little bit and make sure my kids go outside, make sure they explore outside and get to experience all those senses. And then when they come inside, they can feel like there's that peace there. And
I
part of
love
that starts with them watching me and my husband and how we interact. And we're very sarcastic to each other. We both have ADHD, and so like I feel like we could work on that for sure. Um, and it's, one of the things that we're like, oh, maybe we should probably, kids don't really understand sarcasm at that age. They don't understand nuance. So they might think
That's
that we actually think that or feel that about each other. And so with my youngest being 1 and my second child is 3. So I mean, we've got a whole range of development in our house right now. And
true. Yes.
um, it's so that atmosphere is, I think, a key thing. You want your kids when they grow up to want to come back home and to feel that every time they come back home. Um, my mother-in-law has a little thing in her like entry table right when you walk in. It says, I hope my kids, when they come home, walk directly to the fridge, open it up, grab whatever, kick their feet up and sit on the couch, and feel at home.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, yeah, that would be awesome when my kids are grown if I could have that. But that starts now. And so, um, with the energy aspect of that, the way I treat my body, the way I talk about my body, the way that they hear and see me, and feel about their own bodies, and the way I talk about their bodies and them and how I see them. Um, One of the things that I try to do is like, I found a really awesome YouTuber she's a dietitian and also pregnancy and postpartum certified in exercise.
Oh, wow.
So she does like these really quick 10 to 20-minute exercise videos.
Oh, nice.
And they're super short, super easy, and she has all sorts of modifications for different levels. And one of my jobs as a postpartum doula is to take care of moms postpartum, right? And so I
Right.
love that she has a specialty in making sure that her exercises are diastasis recti safe, which is that separation of the abs. And
Yeah.
so my kids see me do those exercises. They watch me. They see me make my breakfast in the morning after they've sat there and had all their food. And, maybe 2 hours later, I'm making my own. You know, it's all a different game when when you're the one taking care of their basic needs. They can't do it for themselves. And so,
Yeah, and all of yours are at that
yeah,
phase right now. I mean,
well,
the 5-year-old might get excited
yeah.
to get the milk out of the fridge or something,
Yeah, and like he likes to pour his own cereal. He grabs his bowl and spoon, and we recently got from one of my husband's brothers. They were giving something away, and it's like those cereal dispensers. And
Oh,
so we
fun.
set it on our counter, and my kids love it. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I can go grab my own cereal and like turn the knob, and it pours cereal out." And so
Oh,
that's been
cute.
really fun.
Yeah.
Initially, when they posted that they wanted to give that away, I was like, I don't need that chaos in my life. It's going to be a mess. And my husband commented in the chat, was like, I want that. And I was like, oh no. But it's been okay so far. It's been great.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
he's usually the one, he's actually so sweet. He is in between jobs right now. And so he's getting up with the kids in the morning and getting them breakfast and taking my oldest to school. And before, when he was working from home, he was doing that anyway because his first meeting wasn't until like 8:30. So he could, you know, get the kids ready and just let me sleep because my 1-year-old still wakes up in the middle of the night sometimes. And
Yeah.
I'm still breastfeeding her because she will not let go. And so,
Yeah. That's great.
yeah. And so he's sweet, and I don't always have to be up in the morning with them. Um,
Nice.
so, um,
So he could have that realm of saying, we do want that.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, you're the one in the morning with them, so you're gonna clean up the mess.
There we go.
Um, but they see what I'm making myself for breakfast. They see how I dress myself. They see how, I'm really only dressing one of my kids, and she still has an opinion at this age. She's very, very autonomous and wants to do everything on her own. And she's almost 18 months. And
Okay.
oh man, has an opinion on what she wears. So I'm not even fully dressing my kids anymore. They're all doing their own thing.
That's great.
And so they kind of get to see how I choose my clothes, and I let them help me pick my clothes sometimes and just let them be involved.
I think that's kudos for getting dressed every day, right? As the
Oh,
mom,
there are so
sometimes,
many days where I'm just in pajamas all day
right?
long. Like there is so many. I saw this post recently. It was like, self-care is getting out of your nighttime sweats and getting into your daytime sweats. And I was like,
That's right.
yeah,
Oh,
getting that act of getting changed is like, I am not wearing the same clothes I slept in.
there we go. There we go.
But one of the things I try to do is I try to do play dates. I try to do things so it forces me to get ready. Because with my ADHD, if I don't do something in the morning to get ready, my entire day is wasted and my kids watch me veg and I get irritated with them super fast. And,
Yeah.
while that happens more often than I want to admit, the days where I get up and I do something and I make appointments for the morning time so that it forces me to get up and get ready. And then I am getting dressed. Um,
Well, and I think
the
there's
rest
a
of the
lot
day.
to be said for that, recognizing your individuality and being willing to just work with it. Meet it. You hear people talk about meet someone where they are. I think it's beautiful to give yourself that same grace. Meet yourself where you are and
Yeah.
say, being willing to say, yeah, so I got diagnosed with ADHD. How can I work with myself? And that's the beauty of the diagnosis, really,
Yeah.
is now you can roll with it instead of feeling like you're constantly battling something that previously you didn't understand about yourself.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure my oldest has ADHD. He's 5, so it's kind of hard to tell at that young age. But man, has he got high energy. And I talked to him about intrusive thoughts because that's really common with ADHD, that impulsivity. You do whatever comes into your head, right?
Okay.
And he'll just, stick his foot out and trip his brother and I'm like, oh, well, that's not a normal big brother thing to do. And I'm like, okay, so that thought popped into your head. You don't have to do everything that comes into your
Right.
head. And it's something that we talk about because I know that since both me and my husband have ADHD, our kids are most likely going to struggle with it too at some point
Even
or
if just by watching your examples, like
exactly.
that's just, yeah.
And so, another thing that I like to focus on also with atmosphere, like I want my kids to feel like it's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel their emotions. It's okay to not want to do something, but do it
Yeah.
anyway. Um, I want them to feel safe. And so like my kids will throw a fit and I'll be like, hey, it's fine for you to be sad and upset. It's fine to cry. It's not okay to make it everybody else's problem
Right,
and
right.
scream and wail and make sure everybody knows you're
Or punch and kick because you want other people to hurt as bad as you do.
exactly. And so, it's fine to feel angry. It's fine to feel sad. I want you to be able to feel those things. That's a good thing. And glad that you feel that way. It means you're normal, you're human. Um, but we're like, if you're gonna scream, cry, and wail because you need to get it out, go somewhere where it's not gonna be everybody else's problem. It's not my job to make sure that you're not sad anymore. And I'm like, sometimes you just got to get it out of your system, let it run its course.
Right.
Um, and I mean, depending on the kid, there's one of my kids, like, you cannot send him away. He feels like he's being, reprimanded for having a bad feeling. One of my others, he wants to be alone. He's like, no, let me go be alone with my emotions. And so I kind of have to balance that with each kid.
Trying
Um,
to remember which kid is which.
oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I call them all each other's names anyway, so
Yeah, normal parts of motherhood there. That's great. And I think that that's awesome that you have a lot of that verbiage down, the wording to help them understand that this is part of being human and we all are going to have these kinds of feelings and that serves a purpose and yet there's also boundaries, right, of
yeah.
whether or not we can make it somebody else's problem. Or I also heard you mention you're not going to have them see it as your responsibility as the mom
Hmm.
to change their emotion.
Hmm.
They starting at this very young age, that's so wise to help them understand that that's in their boat.
Hmm.
And you as the mom, you can comfort potentially, but even the acts of comforting are not saying that it's now your job as the mom to make everything all better.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
mean, I tell them, of course I want you to be happy, but you got to meet me halfway. What do you want? What that's within the rules and regulations that we've decided as a family, or that your dad and my husband and I have decided.
right.
Um, and with one of my kids right now, his thing, if he's upset, he just goes, I'm just sad. I'm just sad all day long. He can't walk because
Oh,
he's just sad. And he can't eat because he's just sad.
oh dear.
And I'm just like, okay, well, when you decide you don't want to be sad anymore, come find me and we can decide some ways that might decide on some things that might help you feel happy. And
Yeah.
just letting him know that it's he can be sad for as long as he wants and he has the power to change it. And I mean, he's 3, so he doesn't understand. And so sometimes
Of
it's, I'm sorry, buddy, I know you're sad. You can eat when you're sad. Did you know that when I'm sad, sometimes eating makes me feel better? I get
That's
hangry. I get hangry. And I think
great.
all 3 of my kids inherited that.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Yeah,
like, sometimes when I'm sad, I just need a nap.
right.
Sometimes when I'm sad, I just need to drink some water.
There you go.
And so it's funny with him trying to kind of get that through to him. We're like, I'm just sad. I can't do anything. I'm like, oh, well, if you're sad, then maybe try to do something and you won't be sad anymore.
Right, right. I love
So,
it. Yeah.
but on top of that, like, I have to model that, right? As
Yeah.
well. And so, um, you have to model regulating your own emotions. And that's Probably the number one difficulty in motherhood is regulating your own emotions in front of your kids when you're overstimulated, overtouched, you feel
Yeah.
isolated, you've talked to no adults that day, and
Mm,
you've just been like, you have little sleep, you're not
right.
eating the way that you should, you're not drinking enough water,
Yeah.
but feeling like you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off, and just in there, and you're like, how am I supposed to tell tell these kids to take deep breaths when I'm not at all? And
Yeah.
so I've had moments where my kids like, Mom, just take a deep breath. And I'm like, you don't
Oh,
know what to
good.
do. And I'm like, oh, that's not how I should have reacted. Like I can internally that dialogue inside is just like,
Yeah.
wow, Amanda, do you even have the capacity to be kind? Like, do I need to tag team with my husband? Do I need to like go call my sister and be like, do I need to go turn on the TV and have that just be a thing for now? Like,
Yeah.
I need to send him outside and be like, I don't care if you're sad, you're going outside because I am a danger to you right now. I'm gonna yell and scream and throw a fit.
Oh dear.
And so I think that's probably the biggest difficulty, I think, for all moms is just regulating your own emotions.
Well, and especially if they happen to the kids themselves are dysregulated also,
Mhm.
and so it's just kind of they are setting the atmosphere in that moment, and
Mhm.
they're, sending out all of these difficult vibes that are so hard to manage,
Yeah.
and
Well, and
so
they're so
if you
sensitive to how I feel too. And so when I'm
yes,
dysregulated, it just makes them worse. And it's just this vicious cycle.
if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy,
Yeah.
right? That's
And
what
that's
the
what I love
saying.
about my job and why I've wanted to work. I mean, I tried being just like just stay-at-home mom for a little while and like I was going absolutely nuts. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't think I can do this. I am not cut out to be just a stay-at-home mom. Props to those moms who are doing it and doing great. Like I have quite a few sister-in-laws that are all just stay-at-home moms and I'm like, you must be a saint because I am going nuts over here. And so I've got a couple of jobs that I have. I do mortgage loan assisting for a friend of mine, and he's been pretty busy with that. So I'm like, okay, great. And I can just work from my computer and my kids see that. And it's
Nice.
it's funny because, I pull up my laptop and they're like, "Oh, mom, do you have work to do?" Or they'll pretend that we've got a pretend laptop and they'll pull it
Great.
out and be like, "I'm working."
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
so fun. Um, and uh, and so I want them to see that like I'll tell them I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it anyway. I don't wanna do this meeting. I don't wanna log in and do work right now. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I want them to hear me say those things and then see me do it anyway.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of value there.
Because my son right now, he's his first year in kindergarten, he's sitting there saying, I don't want to go to school anymore. He's just kind of getting exhausted with school. The novelty has worn off.
Yeah.
He loves his teacher. She's amazing. She's wonderful.
Yeah,
And
thank
his
goodness
TA,
for
his teacher's assistant as well. Like within the first 2 weeks of school, they understood that like anything that he does would not be malicious towards other kids. He's just high energy and does everything 110%. They saw that he was sweet and that just like my mom heart was just like, oh, they're
thank
wonderful people. They see how sweet my kid is.
yeah, I love
But he's exhausted with school. And I mean, he's in full day kindergarten. And I was nervous about putting him in there because I was worried about this exhaustion happening. I thought it would happen like within the first couple months of school. Well, school's
right.
almost over and it just started like a month ago. So I'm like, okay, all right, we're doing pretty good.
There you go.
And I eventually want to homeschool, but I tell him anyway, I'm like, buddy, you have to go to school. One, I get in trouble if I keep you home from school. It's actually illegal. You have to be doing some sort of school. You're not enrolled in homeschool. Like that, there's just a legal obligation there. And he understands what police is. So we're like, okay, we can get in trouble with police if we don't. And he's like, well,
Right.
okay, I go to school. So now he feels like he's going to school so that he can keep mom and dad safe. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, if that gets you going to school for the rest of the school year, great. I know that might not mentally be the most great thing, but you're going to school and you're learning. And he has so much fun there. And he
Yeah.
has friends, and his teacher does a good job of breaking up the day so it's not just sitting, being quiet all day.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
And so she's a great kindergarten teacher. And so I want him to see me saying, "Ugh, I don't want to do the dishes. ugh, I
Right.
let it go for too long and now it's built up.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this, and then going and doing it anyway. Because
Yeah.
I want them to see that it's okay to not want to do something, but also understanding the importance of doing that thing.
Right.
I'll let them hear be like, oh, but we really can't live in a messy house. It's no way to live. I should go do
Right.
it. You
Yeah.
know, people are, my friend is counting on me to help him with the loans that he has going. I
Yeah.
need to meet my obligation and meet my commitment. I've committed to volunteer with Mom of Eight. Oh, I'm too tired tonight. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've made a commitment. I'm going to do it anyway, things like that.
Love
And
it.
um, that's really important for me, for my kids to grow up knowing that something can be hard, but you can do it anyway. Or
Yeah.
it's hard to get over that like not being motivated to do something. And I'm on
Yeah.
medication to help me feel motivated to
There you
my
go. Yeah.
ADHD. And so like my
And
kids are like,
it's
"Oh, mom, is that your medicine?" And
there you
I'll tell them, be like, "I forgot to take my meds today. I am out of control and I don't want to do anything."
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how it swings back and forth from one extreme to the other.
It does. And,
Yeah.
those days where I'm really motivated and productive, I sit there and I'm like, wow, guys, this does not feel normal for me. I try to be as honest with them as I can. And I mean, most days it's leave me alone, go away. I'm trying to do something. I'm busy, go away. But those moments where I do sit there and I'm like, no, come sit on my lap while I do this and watch me work. And,
There you
my 1-year-old, oh man, all she wants is me. She's a mama's girl. All she wants is to sit on my lap and, you know, touch my laptop while I work. And I'm like, no, no, stop it. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to do something.
go.
Eventually I just put her down and let her cry and go find something else to do. And my kids are like, I'm bored. And I'm like, great, find something to do. Mom, I'm bored. I want to do something. Okay, figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can go play outside. And they're like, there's
Yeah.
nothing to do outside. Oh, well, figure it out. I try to let them
Figure it out.
figure it
Exactly.
out and, make their own fun, because I sit there and I'll be like, guys, I'm so bored.
Yeah.
Be like, what should I do? And they'll be like, let's do this and let's do that. And I'm like, well, that's what you want to do. Why don't you do that when you're bored? And
That's funny.
so, and I like, one of my favorite things to do is bake.
Oh, fun.
Bake bread. I love baking macarons. I know everybody's like, oh my gosh, those are so hard. But I bake with my sister, and she's like the real talent. She teaches me. She's my little
Oh, neat.
sister. And, I she's kind of taught me a lot with baking. And so I also watched the Great British Baking Show, and I was like, all of a sudden I was like,
Ooh.
oh, I'm a professional. I can do all this stuff because I learned it in the Great British Baking Show. And so like it's really fun, and my kids get to come and help me, but I also sit there and be like, oh man, I said I would make this for such and such activity or event or
Right.
church
Yeah.
thing. And with my postpartum stuff, I feel like I often don't, it's on the back burner, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
We often have to put our pursuits and our goals and things on the back burner. And, as much as I would love to be doing that full time, I'm really spending most of my time as a mom with
Right.
these little side things going on to keep me, engaged in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, um, but I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, so and so had a baby in the neighborhood. And I'm like, I'm gonna make them a dinner. I'll volunteer to make them dinner. Like, I'll
I love
volunteer to watch their older kids. And it's these little things that I can do in my neighborhood that I feel like Mom of Eight really supports. And the whole goal of Mom of Eight is, and that's why I was so drawn to Mom of Eight, is I felt like I could meet that engagement and goal of mine as a postpartum doula without having to charge people for it while I'm trying to focus on my own kids. I could do it at the pace of motherhood, which is something you guys say a lot,
Oh, yeah, I love
where
that. I'm so
other
glad you
moms
brought that up.
can have a baby and I can say, oh, let's have a play date. Let you
Mhm.
stay at home with your baby and rest and
Get a
bond with
nap.
your baby. You can actually sleep when your baby's sleeping, since I'll have your other kids.
Yeah.
Um, or, let me bring you a nutritious meal, because when postpartum, I did a postpartum nutrition certification and I learned so much about how the postpartum body absorbs nutrients and
Oh,
what
wow.
types of foods they need to have, and moms aren't getting those.
Yeah.
like, oh, I have to bounce back. I have to be this, fit
Super person.
body and,
Mhm.
be, exercising like 3 weeks after I've had a baby and I'm just,
Mm.
no, lay in bed.
Yeah.
We'll bring you food that's
Yeah.
warm and fully cooked and, just healing for your body with lots of spices and herbs to really help your body just absorb all the nutrients and have an overload of nutrients and abundance of nutrients so that you can provide for your body. Because, like you said earlier, when mom's happy, everybody's happy. When mom's taken
There
care
we
of,
go.
she has an overflowing cup that she can use to fill everybody else's cups.
Well, that's great.
Um, and I've kind of had to sit there and tell myself, I can give in those moments, but I'm also in a period of receiving while my kids are young. I can
Yes.
do my giving period later where that's what I do full time as a postpartum doula. But
Yeah.
right now, my focus is on taking care of my kids and filling their cups, which means I have to fill my cup and receive help and let people help me. Um,
That's beautiful.
and so that's really the focus. I want my kids to see, you know, it's okay to get help. You don't have
Yeah.
to do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, you can come and bake with me, but I'm gonna get overstimulated and I'm gonna tell you, go away. I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna call dad 3 or 4 times while he's out helping grandma with their maintaining their apartments that they
Mhm.
own and be like, when are you gonna be home? I'm going crazy. Are you gonna be home? Your daughter did this, your son did this, and um it's gonna be an absolute mess. And one of the things I learned from my sister, she had an unexpected pregnancy. It was her fifth pregnancy. Um, and it was twins.
Wow.
And they had a bunch of medical complications with twin A and
Oh,
all this
dear.
stuff. And it was really scary for most of it. And she ended up they both were actually really, really healthy. And there
Oh,
weren't any problems that we thought there were going to be during the pregnancy. And, um,
wow.
she decided to start homeschooling and
Mm.
has one of her kids from a previous marriage, and they've had a lot of conflict and issues. And she's at home with these twins by herself. Her husband lost his job while she was pregnant with them, didn't get a job until after they were born, and like months after they were born. And she was
Shoot.
like, you know what, that ended up being a huge blessing because he was there to help me with them.
That's a good point.
So
Yeah. I'm glad she could see that positive perspective amidst all of that stress.
yeah, and when I asked her about it, I was like, man, twins, you never wanted twins. How have you done this? And she goes, honestly, I found out that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was.
Wow.
That kind of has just stuck with me. And she told me that, like, I don't know, last October or something. And I just was
Mhm.
like, wow.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, so maybe I'm stronger than I think I am.
I
Maybe
love
I can get through today while my husband is out trying to help his parents because they pay him to help with
that. Okay. Yeah.
properties. And so it's a way for us to have income while he's
Yeah.
looking for a job. And so it's like, okay, I can survive. I can do this.
I can be stronger than I realized. And I
I
think
can,
that's a beautiful way to end our conversation. We're here
yeah.
at the end of our time together. But I'm so glad that we had this chance to hear all of your, um, how your days go and what you're working towards as a mom, and how you're just doing your best and managing and trying. And I love that. And finding out that you're stronger than you think you are.
Yeah, and it definitely takes a village, and reaching out is definitely the thing that I've seen helps the most. Like whether it's
Beautiful.
neighbors or family or whoever's close by, finding a
Yeah.
friend.
And Mom of Eight wants to create that for moms, is opportunities to reach out and find not just people to help you, but also people that you can help,
Mhm.
because it also helps to do that, right? Like it's a give and a receive cycle back and forth. So
Yeah,
I love that.
absolutely. One of the darkest times in my life, I turned to trying to help other people and it just lifted me up. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. And lift is a word that requires effort. And, so that's beautiful that you've discovered that.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can remember it when it's those times of darkness, right?
Yeah.
So, well, thank you again. I'm hopeful that this message gets to the women who need it and that we can have impact in this mothering realm.
Yeah. No, of course. Moms, we need each other.